Hey everyone, it's Holly here and I'm extremely excited for this episode. I have my co-host, Annie, and the amazing boss babe, Emaan, the founder and starter of Ketish.
Hi. Thank you, ladies, so much for having me. I'm so excited.
Oh, welcome. I'm so excited to have you on the show. We did episode 2, which was entrepreneurs or businesswomen in Dubai. With Kelly Marie Hodgkin, and then we were like, we got to do part 2 with Emaan, the Cali babe.
For those who are not familiar with Emaan, she is breaking down barriers and igniting conversations for feminine wellness. Emaan is the founder of the powerhouse Dubai made brand Ketish.
Yes, that's me. Oh my gosh. Every time I hear that, I'm like, pinch myself.
You've smashed it, girl.
Yeah, it's been a journey, to say the least.
I want to start from the very beginning, though. I want to know what brought you to Dubai,
Right.
and how everything started from the get-go.
Right.
I know that's a very, very long story to fit in this podcast.
I'll try to break it down so it's simple. I have been in Dubai since 2016, October of 2016. I never thought that I would live somewhere outside of the US. I always thought like Cali girl through and through. I was very happy with my California life. But an opportunity came up that I couldn't really refuse. I feel like I kind of manifested it. But yeah, I ended up, at the time before I moved to Dubai, I was working for Sephora in the States. Super beauty obsessed. I remember it was maybe like 8 months before I moved. I had started my own beauty blog. Like I just wanted to talk about beauty, and I was all about beauty. And when I was working for Sephora, I became really obsessed with a particular brand. It's called Huda Beauty. And I ended up coming to Dubai on a vacation. My sister lived here at the time. And this is about maybe 10 months before I moved here. And while I was here on vacation, I ended up meeting the founder of Huda Beauty. Yeah, fell in love, wanted a piece of the brand, wanted to be a part of it. I ended up asking her for a job like a month later. And 9 months later, I was packing everything I owned into like 3 suitcases and moving from California to Dubai. So, and I mean, I love it here. I never thought, I told myself 2 years, I'm just going to do this 2 years and I'll move back home. And here I am 6 years,
It's
years
always
later.
the opposite, I feel. Like people who come for a short period of time always stay for longer.
Right.
They end up like staying for like 20 years or something, like literally planting their roots.
Yeah. And I think I always tried to imagine what my exit plan would be like. And I haven't gotten there yet. I miss home all the time, but there's just something really special about this place. And I think now that I have been here a while, I've kind of settled down roots. I've now started this brand. I can't imagine my life without a tie or an anchor to Dubai. I really love it.
Oh, and Cali is so far away from Dubai. And do you go home much?
I used to go home a lot more like pre-COVID. I've only been home once since COVID. And actually the last time I went home, it was last winter for Christmas. I was so excited. I hadn't seen my family and friends for 2 years. And I had 4 days of like really living it up. And then I got COVID for the very first time. And I was bedridden.
You got the COVID bite.
Yeah. Oh my gosh. I think it was the universe just telling me to lay down. So last time I was home, I was literally in isolation and bedridden for 10 days, which was like the majority of my trip. So I can't wait to go back and do it all over again.
Aww.
Hopefully in a couple of weeks.
Get your Cali fix.
Yeah.
Now, I have to ask you, from the very beginning of moving to Dubai, obviously you joined a beauty brand out here. How did you start your brand and the journey of Ketish?
Yeah. So do you want to know like the whole backstory? Like what inspired or?
Yeah.
I guess I'll start from.
I think it's really empowering.
It's a beautiful story that we
beautiful
have to share with our listeners.
Yeah,
Yes.
Thank you. So yeah, I really truly believe that Ketish is a culmination of my entire experience as a woman, learning and exploring and discovering my body, but also the challenges that I've been faced with, not only with my feminine health, but also as a young Arab Muslim woman, where, you know, the topics of body and intimacy and pleasure are really still very much taboo. So I grew up in a really strict Arab American home. My family didn't really talk about, pleasure, and like dating was a no-no. We still don't say tampons in our household. My mom still can't bring herself to say the word. And so a lot of what I did learn about my body was either in school or through my own firsthand experience. And when I was 21, I decided to go get a gynecological exam for the very first time. I had been active, if I can say, for a couple of years. And I remember my girlfriends, I was away at school in college, and they encouraged me like, oh, there's a clinic on campus, like you should just go get checked. So I went, and it was a result of my very first gynecological exam, my very first pap smear, that I was diagnosed with cervical cancer.
God.
And it was caused by HPV, which is a sexually transmitted virus. And I just remember my entire world kind of turning upside down. And I think that experience, it was super challenging, but I really thank God for it, because it really turned me on to the importance of my feminine health. Like, I think especially at the age of 21, you think you're invincible, nothing can happen to you. And to kind of be like slammed in the face with the C word, it was heavy. It was
And
really
the
tough.
C word
so
meaning
petrifying.
Cancer, cervical cancer.
Yeah. And, I think with the gynecologist and things like that, I think everyone has the fear of going. And when I moved to Dubai, in the UK, you don't go, I think, until you're 25 or something. And everyone kept saying to me, oh, have you ever gone to a gynecologist? And I would always say, oh, I wouldn't do that until I'm 25, because that's what I grew up thinking. And it is that fear, but also the cervical HPV, the kind of count, it is actually quite common for people to have, to also receive a low count on that, isn't it? So if you have listeners that are listening now and they've come back with those results, or they've received something, you don't automatically have to be scared.
Right, exactly. There's 81 different strands of the HPV virus. There are only a select few that can lead to cancer, and for that cancer to be dangerous. And it's just really important to be aware. It is quite common for, if you are sexually active, to contract the virus, and usually your body will just fight it off. There's nothing really for most strands, there's nothing to be really concerned about. But there are those select few that can lead to complications. And it's not just cancer, it can lead to other things too. There could be genital warts and, contracting more infections. It just depends on how your body reacts to it. But there are vaccines that can help protect you. I just recently got the HPV vaccine in my 30s, which there's a big misconception nowadays that, the vaccine is only for young women between the ages of like 14 to 24, but they've now extended that age to the age of 45.
That's incredible. I never even knew that.
Yeah.
And going back to when you got the results, so you received the results, obviously really scary. You're very upset. How did you approach it with your parents? Did you tell them?
Yeah. So I actually decided I decided to not share with my family at the time. I actually didn't share with them for a very long time.
Got goosebumps.
Until recently. And part of the reason why I didn't want to share with them was it had a lot to do with our culture. There is, this idea, and I think for me, I always felt a lot of pressure to, be a good girl, to impress my parents, to follow the rules, to make sure that, I was abiding by the constructs of our culture. And premarital intercourse is a huge no-no. And I think a lot of the reason why I didn't want to share with them was because I was scared of disappointing them, or I didn't want to make them feel ashamed, or it just, I didn't feel like it was the right thing to do. And maybe now looking back, I wish I would have shared with them, because I think I robbed them of that opportunity of being able to support me and to be by my side through the process. I was very lucky in my diagnosis where they were able to catch it earlier on, where I didn't have to go through chemo. I did have to go through 2 rounds of cryosurgery to remove the cancerous area on my cervix. But yeah, I decided not to share with them. And I think that's something that a lot of women, I don't even want to say just in Middle Eastern Muslim cultures do, but a lot of women tend to hide or not share these aspects of their lives or lifestyle decisions with their family. And I think a lot of that has to do with fear of, not being accepted.
100%. And I think the older generation of mindset, like, intimacy and like everything you're discussing, like I remember the first time I got my period, I would never tell my father or my brother, or it was like I was even embarrassed to tell my mom.
Right.
I don't even know why.
Right.
It's the most weird. I'm from the most loving family there is. It's just, I just had this like stigma and fear around it. And we're not a religious family either.
Right.
I think it's like I call it table talk. Like you don't mention things, and I don't know why.
Yeah. It's like it's a shame. There's like this shame associated with it when it comes to aspects of feminine health that are such natural parts of the things that we go through, like a period, that we still tend to feel ashamed or embarrassed by. Yeah. And I think that going through like my experience, I learned that through other women that like I would then share, my experience with them. And a lot of girls would tell me, yeah, I'm embarrassed of this, or I don't always know what products to use for this. And I think that's a lot of the reason why, what led me to this point of creating this brand. I realized with my diagnosis and with all the things that was happening like to my body, that I was really uneducated. And I grew up in California where we went through, sexual health education, and I still didn't know a lot of things. And I wanted to, and it took me years to get to this point, right? My diagnosis was in 2009. I didn't start working on Ketish until 2018 is when I first started thinking of it. And I wanted to create the brand that I wish I had during my experience, whether it was, credible products, effective products, safe products, or just like a place where I could go and learn or talk to other women about what I was experiencing and what my body was going through.
It's very much an educational platform. Like I follow your Instagram account, and I've shared many stories, especially around like breast cancer awareness and like so many things I didn't know about.
Right.
Because you're not told or informed, and it's your own body and things you don't think of, but as sad as it sounds, you could be sitting there hearing the C word or something even worse. It's frightening.
And a lot of what we did learn in school, like if you remember, there was just I think that part of the curriculum, it was like 2 weeks. And a lot of what we did learn, it was either, how to get pregnant, how not to get pregnant. And
yes.
If you do get pregnant, all of the horrible things, if you do decide to have intercourse, all of the horrible things that can happen to you. It was all very like fear-based, worst case scenario. We never learned about things like hormone health, or, if you do decide to take birth control, what happens to your body? Or, if you do get pregnant, what postpartum is, and prenatal care. We did not learn about these topics that actually affect us. And so if you do follow us on Instagram, you'll see that we tend to talk about a multitude of different topics. A lot of it is feminine health, intimate health based, but we also talk a lot about body positivity, self-worth, having women really truly understand the value of their bodies, regardless of what it looks like and what it feels like at that moment in time, and how important it is to care and nurture your body.
It's a really powerful brand. And I think one of the things that I love about Ketish is you're giving back to everyone. That's an amazing, generous thing you're doing. And I don't think you realize how many people you touch, and you can also just one share of a post or one thing that you put on your social media can help someone. And even listening to this podcast, I wanted to ask you actually, so going back to when you were diagnosed or when you were going through everything, what piece of advice would you give a listener if they were worried about, you know, talking to their parents about intimacy, or I don't know, they're going through something and they're kind of thinking, you know, it's a tough subject, or
how to approach it.
How to approach it, I think. Or what advice would you have changed, or, you know, I don't know, something you can give back to the listeners?
Yeah, I would say, you know, I understand that everyone's comfort level with these topics, it's tough, right? Sometimes you have to allow people to be where they're at with it. And I think I had to accept that with my family and my parents. Now looking back, I mean, I'm able to talk to my family and my parents about anything and everything. And I think a lot of that has to do with me building this brand and kind of opening up the channels of communication. I would say for people listening, you know, if your family, if your parents are not people that you can go to, find someone. And if it's not someone in your community of friends, or maybe a teacher or a family, like a relative of some sort, then come to us, like DM me, talk to me, ask me. I think what's important to know is that you shouldn't be ashamed or scared or embarrassed about something that's going on with your body, because some of these things, like we as women, we carry all of our reproductive organs on the inside of our body. So oftentimes when something is wrong, we're given indication, but sometimes it's a little, you know, it takes time for it to signal to us that something's going on. So if you do have a concern, if you are experiencing something and you don't know who to turn to, you can always turn to us.
Love that. So
it's a movement, really. That's what I see it as. Like, it's so much more of like, yes, you have a business, you're a successful entrepreneur, you've been on Forbes magazine, like you are a boss babe, like you're killing it.
So I want to know and go back to the exciting part about how you founded Ketish. And I want to know, what was that kind of, you said obviously there was a couple of years in between your diagnosis and actually finding the brand. And I want to know, what was your kind of like light bulb moment? Where were you? What were you doing? How did it come about?
Right. I think I've always had a dream of having something of my own and kind of being my own boss or creating something that I was really, truly passionate about. I just didn't know what that was. And, you know, I'd spent a lot of time in my previous role working for a female entrepreneur who was building her own brand. And I got to see really up close how she took a vision and made it into something really huge and magical and impactful. And at the time, her name's Huda Katan. She has Huda Beauty, and at the time she was starting an investment firm in which she talked about starting a fund that she wanted to invest in female entrepreneurs. And I remember watching that video and thinking like, that's interesting. I wonder. And it took me a couple weeks, and I remember I was away on a business trip, and it was in Milan. And I remember my brain just like woke me up. It was maybe like 5 o'clock in the morning. And all these ideas just started rushing to me. And I still have the note in my phone. It's like, you know, branding, black, white, gold, like sexy, powerful. I remember writing down the name, the Quickie, writing down the name of another product that I can't talk about yet. And just all these ideas started to rush to my brain. I just started to write them down. And I think that's when I realized like, okay, I need to put together a business plan. Like this could be something. And I took some time, it took a couple of months actually, just talking to people, asking them what they thought about, you know, a feminine wellness brand or intimate care products, or, you know, what their experiences were with products that were currently on the market. And I think what was so magical about those conversations, and still what I experience to this day now that Ketish is here and alive and breathing, is every time I have a conversation with a woman about products or anything that has to do with feminine health, they always have a story or an experience to share. And it becomes this really like beautiful conversation where we're able to kind of share and exchange and talk about our experiences with our feminine health. And I think that's what really drove me to want to start the brand, is that I felt like there was such a need, maybe not just for product, maybe not just for education, but a need for a place for women to have the conversation. And so, yeah, it took a couple of months. I had a business plan. I approached my boss at the time. And I don't know what I was thinking. I was like, here's this great idea I have, thinking that, maybe she'd want to be a part of it, or maybe she'd tell me like, cute, get back to work. But she actually decided to invest in the brand, and that's when it really started to take off.
And isn't it weird? If you hadn't have come to Dubai, this would have never potentially happened.
Yeah.
I feel like you're meant to tell your story though. I feel like one way or another you would get your story out there.
Maybe.
But this journey's, I think, especially because like, I don't know what it is, your culture and your like Egyptian K. I just love that you've built it in a Middle Eastern country.
Right.
Like you must have had a lot of hurdles. And that's what I really want to ask you is like launching a feminine wellness brand and you put so much information on a social platform. Have you had any backlash from the Middle Eastern community or any other people?
I think that's probably been the most beautiful part of all of this. I had a lot of fears. We were advised, prepped, and really, I think given some strong direction to be careful, you never know, or watch out for the backlash, or, you could get shut down. And I think in my mind, it's always been there in the back of my mind that we had to proceed with quote unquote caution. But if we went as carefully as we were advised to, I don't think that Ketish would have made the impact that it has. And surprisingly, or I don't even want to say surprisingly, and thankfully, it's been so well received. We have gotten some backlash at times, but not nearly as much as I thought we would. And I think that that's just indication that it is shifting, right? The mindset is shifting. Women are ready for a brand like this. We very strategically, when we launched, we made sure to take a layered approach. So when we first launched, we only talked about feminine health, the body. We didn't even touch upon intimacy and pleasure for the first 10 months. And that was really very much on purpose. We really wanted to lay down the groundwork and have women trust us and feel comfortable with us before we started talking about all the, the gushy. And I think that that's worked in our favor, but I also think it's very much an indication that maybe not everyone is ready for a brand like this, and that's okay, but there are a lot of women that are. And I do think that it is really ironic. My parents bring it up all the time. Like they immigrated from Egypt to the States almost 40 years ago. And then now here I am 40 plus years later, coming back to the Middle East and really, shaking things up.
360.
Yeah, it's kind of wild, but I do think it was meant to happen. And I can't imagine me doing it anywhere else than here in Dubai.
And Dubai gives you those opportunities. I think, they're accepting to, hearing what people need. And that is a need. It's a requirement. It's what people want to see. And I think probably the communities, especially amongst women and maybe Muslim women, is why don't we need this? Just we need it, but we don't want to talk about it. But
right.
And I think that's what's so powerful behind your products. So with your products, what was the OG? What was the original one?
Yeah, so the Quickie was definitely the OG. There is another product that I started working on alongside the Quickie that will probably come out next year sometime. So I can't talk about it just yet. But
soft launch on the Dubai podcast.
I'll be sure to share. I'll be sure to share as soon as I can.
But please, can you tell the story of the Quickie? I think it's incredible.
Of course. So, with all of our products, they are inspired or born out of like a need or a desire of a woman, either my own desire or, what I felt I was missing or someone close to me in my life. And with the Quickie specifically, I remember one of my girlfriends, hi Annie, she had told me this story that when she was out on a date, and she was notorious for carrying feminine wipes in her bag, and these feminine wipes would live in her purse for like it seems like decades. She would pull them out and they were just like crusty and disgusting.
Dry.
And
Got
like
foundation on.
yeah. Like, can't you switch, like refresh? Anyways, she had told me that she was out on a date. It was her first date with this guy, and she had her purse on the table, and they were like talking, whatever. And the purse somehow got knocked off the table, and it was like this poetic moment where the wipe just like flung out of her bag, and the guy went to go reach for it, and like announced to the bar, like, "Oh, you dropped your feminine wipe," and she was mortified, like, so embarrassed. And I remember when she was telling me, I died laughing, of course. But then I thought to myself, like, wow, why was it so embarrassing? And why did the guy pick it up and announce it and laugh when he did? Like, why does it have to be like this? And I think that's with the Quickie itself, we really wanted to give women a product that was like beautiful and sexy and gold and this like wrapped treasure, but also something that allowed women to remove that shame around like feminine hygiene and how embarrassing, that could feel, that moment can feel, and rather give them a product that like, yeah, it flies out of your purse and you look at them like, yeah, I'm ready.
I love the name. It's such a good name, isn't it?
I have one in every bag.
Oh, yeah. I'm so happy. I think, and with each of our products, that's the intention, is to take an aspect of feminine health, feminine hygiene, feminine wellness, and give women a product that allows her to remove that shame, remove that stigma, but also become a bit more in tune with her body. So for instance, the second product is the potion. It's a soothing body oil for period cramps. And, there's such a negative connotation around periods. It's always like doomsday every month. And we wanted to help women understand and become more in tune with her cycle, but also work to cherish that time of the month and give women a product that allowed her, through touch, a nice warming massage on her lower abdomen, her lower back, get more in tune with what her body was going through, and hopefully help her have a more positive experience with her monthly periods.
And why the name Ketish?
So I wanted a name that tied back into my culture, but I didn't want it to be so like overt. So I started to do a bunch of research, and we found that there was an ancient Egyptian goddess by the name of Ketish. She is the goddess of love, passion, sexuality, fertility.
It's literally you.
Yeah, literally. Literally, she like embodied everything that I wanted the brand to embody. And we decided to take her name and spice it up a little bit and call it Ketish.
Ketish is Emaan Abbas, literally.
Yeah. No, it is. Like, because I knew you before Ketish, and knew your expertise is developing products, like meaning like what you're doing and you have the story behind it of how you started, and combining them too. You can just see the success.
Thank you.
It's incredible.
It's really fun. It's definitely been a journey. I think at the beginning, I was always really passionate about product, and now coupling that with, the community, the impact aspect,
the education.
It makes my heart explode. I love what I do, and I really feel like it's my purpose.
So tell us about a day in the life of Ketish.
Oh gosh.
On the spot.
So boring. I was talking to someone a few days ago, and I was like, I have a great life. I think I'm like full of passion, and I love, having fun, but I'm also like in bed with my bonnet on at like 9:30 p.m. most nights.
Are you a part of the 5 a.m. club?
No.
Okay.
No, I have no aspirations to be a 5 a.m.er. I'm struggling to get to 7 a.m. But usually I start my day around 7:30. I try to go to the gym at least like 4 to 5 times a week. And then I have my whole morning routine with the coffee and the breakfast and the this and the that. And then I typically start my workday around like 9:30. Some nights, my workday ends at 5 or 6, and some nights it ends at 11. It really depends. I am trying to work on balance. And I think that that's something that I've discovered, especially living here in Dubai, is that although we work really hard, like as a community, as an expat community, we work hard, we hustle, but we also have a really nice balance of personal life and friend life and family life.
Very social.
Yeah.
I find that when I go home, I'm like, are you not going out on a Wednesday?
Yeah.
They're like, no, we only go out once a month. I'm like, what?
Right. Or like back home, it's reserved for, Friday, Saturday.
Yes.
And here it's like Tuesday night, I'm out and about. And I think that that's really nice. And I try to have that balance. There was a point in time where I was like not going out and not doing fun things. But now I realized how important balance is to me and my ability to show up as, a founder, as a friend, as a daughter. So I really try to balance it out. So I work hard, but I play hard too.
Good for you, Maya. Yeah. What advice would you give to any other entrepreneurs looking to start a business in Dubai or anywhere?
Yeah. I think that what's really special about this place, it really is, a dreamer's city. Like even if you look at the architecture, it's like, who would have dreamed of, the tallest building in the world, or, the Museum of the Future is just like a work of art. And I think that this city really lends itself to the dreamers and to people that really want to make something happen. I would say for anyone that's wanting to start a business, especially one of impact, it is really important to have like a digital identity. So like having your social media and really leveraging that, but also getting out there physically in the community is really, really important. And I think that Dubai really lends itself. Like there are a lot of people that crave being a part of a community of some sort and want that sense of belonging. And there are already built-in established organizations, or, for me, it's like women's groups or, business groups that you can go to try your products, to talk about your mission and what you want to start. And so there's like already like a huge, it's like your marketing test group is kind of built in. And I've really been leveraging those communities to be able not only to try products, but also to build into my customer base. And I think that I would definitely encourage, if you are starting a business, like tap into that. Don't be afraid to network and get out there and meet people, because that's what's really, those are your first adopters, your first customers.
You've got to stay motivated though, haven't you? When you've got your own business. Yeah. How do you stay motivated?
Ooh, gosh.
Sorry, I really am putting you on the spot today.
Hey, I signed up for this.
I could be more brutal, but I'm not going to.
No, I think that's the hardest part of being a founder, especially when you're like a solo founder, you're not a co-founder. You have to be self-motivated. And there's a lot of days where, I just wanted to stay in bed, or like really tough moments that I really just had to pick myself up off the floor, literally, and keep going. And I think that what's important is to always hold on to your purpose, to always remember, what are your biggest motivations? For me, I want to help women. I want to give women a different experience than I had. I also want to make sure that whatever it is that I am preaching to women, whether it be, about body confidence or mental health or feminine, your own feminine physical health, that I'm doing the same thing. I'm practicing what I preach. So I go to therapy. I work out all the time because I want to take care and pour back into my body. And I think that my community and the women around me are my motivation. And I got to stay good and healthy for them. So I think that's what keeps me going.
You found your tribe.
Yeah.
I'm reading a lot about this at the moment. It's kind of like the people around you are your like petrol and your aura.
Yeah.
And your support.
And you don't always realize, how you're impacting people. Like, I'm very grateful. Sometimes during your toughest moments, it's like the universe sends you messages or indication. I literally get DMs from other women where it's like, I got one the other day where it's like, you don't understand how you've allowed me to be confident in myself again. You know, I was very down about my body because I have PCOS and I was gaining weight and this and that. And she was sharing her experience with me. And it just meant so much to me that one, she would take the time to share the way that she felt and to give me that praise, but also it made me realize that like you never know who's watching and you never know how you can impact someone, and you just got to keep going for them because you really are making a difference. So I try to remind myself, and when I don't remember, someone usually DMs me and reminds me.
You are very special though, honestly. So like
you are making a difference.
Yeah, you're making such an impact to so many women. And I think from loads of women and loads of your followers, like just a huge thank you, because you give so much back. And I think, you know, we don't always sometimes sit there and say thank you or, you know, recognize that. And I think as well, being an entrepreneur and being a businesswoman, you have to realize if you're starting out, sometimes you think, oh, well, you know, there's a big hurdle, but look back and think how far you've come and what you've achieved and sit there and write it down. And then you realize you've already achieved so much. And then your kind of passion and what you're thinking and what you're driving, you know, there's always so much more to give.
Right.
I think Emaan's going to have an autobiography in years to come. Honestly, I'm calling it now. It's recorded.
I got a lot to say. I've already started taking notes.
Oh, I love it.
Someone said to me the other day, they said, you know, what you're building is so great. You're so positive. And I am. I really pride myself on putting a happy face and, you know, just getting out there and continuing to go for it. But there have been a lot of really tough moments. I have sacrificed a lot, and as any founder anyone does when they're really trying to go after something. But they said to me, you know, you have to, although it's really important to talk about the good times, it is also equally as important to talk about the tough times, because you sharing that information, you painting the picture can help someone that is, you know, coming after you and going through maybe a similar experience. Maybe you can give them, you know, nuggets of information of how you overcame things, but also give them comfort in knowing that it's hard and that's normal, that just the struggle is normal and that you're going to be okay. And so I'm learning ways in which I could be a bit more open about that. Like I talk about it all the time, like, yeah, this is great, but it's also really, really hard. And it's a part of it. It's part of the journey, you know?
What's the vision for Ketish? What's next?
Oh gosh, so much. So much. This year has definitely been a year of transition. There's a lot of things that I wanted to do this year that I haven't yet accomplished. And I think this next year is really about growing and continuing to do what we do, but also continuing to tackle other parts of the business that I've always wanted to. So for instance, the plan is to launch more products, some coming very soon, launch more products, grow the team, but also really start focusing on a pillar of the business that I'm very passionate about, which is CSR, giving back. And so we're trying to find out exactly what that will look like. But really, for me, the vision for Ketish is larger than the products and the community, but it really is about giving women access to resources or education that maybe, you know, where they live or where the environment that they're a part of, they don't have access to. So that's a really big one for me, and it'll take us some time to get there. But soon.
We're going to be standing on the sidelines, rooting you on, cheering for you.
Thank you.
And we've spoken a lot about Ketish, but Emaan, like, what do you get up to? What do you enjoy doing? Obviously, you spoke about fitness and things like, where would we see you at the weekend?
Yeah, I mean, we're so lucky here in Dubai. The weather is pretty nice majority of the year, except for the hell months of the summer. But I love spending time outdoors. I mean, you can typically find me at the beach. I always say, like, if you don't find me in the sun on a weekend, I probably didn't spend my weekend right. I also really love traveling. I think that that's something that's so special about Dubai is everyone that's here has this like travel bug. And I think it's because we're so close to other amazing places and parts of the world. I mean, living in California, it's like 6 hours to New York. You're still in the States, where here in 6 hours on a plane, you could be anywhere. So I try to travel as much as possible because I just feel like it makes my experience, like when I'm sitting at a dinner table with someone and they say, oh, I went here a few months ago, and it allows us to have a strong connection.
You also never regret traveling.
No. Never.
You never regret it.
Never.
You learn something new every time you go.
Yeah. I really love it. And I think that's what makes Dubai really beautiful, is that we're a bunch of little nomads living in the desert. And so, I would say beach and travel are my biggest go-tos.
Now, we ask this to all our guests, our last question of the podcast, and it's what advice you would give to your younger self.
Ooh.
And you've given a lot of advice
so
already.
But
if you were to look back.
If I were to look back, oh gosh, I've made a lot of mistakes when I was little, and a lot of them had to do with boys. So I would probably tell her to like not talk to that boy.
Well, maybe not, because that's made you who you are.
True,
yeah.
But I could have done with a couple of less experiences with boys. I would say, don't take yourself too seriously. Have fun and really enjoy the process of getting to know the woman that you are. Like, that's a part of the journey. I think for a long time I struggled with, being this Egyptian girl, impressing my parents, making my parents happy, but also just trying to like fit into my American life. And I wish I would have like not stressed or put a lot of pressure on myself and just allowed myself to like live and be me and not really worried about what other people thought of me. Like, what other people's opinions don't matter. It's like, are you making yourself proud? So take the time to get to know you and try to make yourself proud above anyone else.
That's a really good piece of advice. And also, I think as well, in addition to that, from myself, I've learned over the years, if your friends are doing it and you don't want to, like, you don't have to follow. And I think it definitely takes quite a few years to kind of even accept that.
Right. Yeah. Be you. Be your own person, because you're enough.
And you're special in your own way.
Yeah.
Be you, do you, for you.
Yeah.
Oh, I love that.
Drop the mic.
Thank you so much, Emaan. So how do we find out? Where do we follow you? Can you tell us your socials?
So on Instagram, we're Ketish, just Ketish. And my personal Instagram is they call me Emaan, or they call me _Emaan. And if you DM us, you message us, it's me answering. I try to be in the DMs and be connected to people. So if you ever have a question or just want to chat, you can send a message there. Or online, we are at getketish.com. And we're also sold in Sephora, UAE.
Love that. Thank you so much. And thank
you
you to our listeners. You can follow us on the _podxb on Instagram or TikTok. And I think that was such a lovely episode to get to hear and empower all of the women and the listeners.
Thanks,
Emaan. And we will be following to see what products are coming next.
Yay. Thank you, ladies, so much. Thank you for having me.
Yay!